It has been the best thing I ever did. I started standing start in property, not knowing anything about even how to buy a house, and now I've got a fantastic portfolio which makes me a gross annual income of about £65,000 a year, and that's passive before I've even added on my deal packaging money, which makes me another £320,000 a year. Hi everyone, I'm Katy Wilson and I am a property investor. So a little while ago now, I filmed a video where I took on a journey around my portfolio, and we've had an awful lot of comments on that video. So what I'm going to be doing is a bit of a Q&A, and I'm going to go through the responses and answer some of your questions. If you haven't seen that video yet, you can watch it here. So before we get started and I answer all of your questions, please be sure to like, subscribe and hit the bell icon. So question number 1 is from Joe Swanson. My brother and I own a buy-to-let outright. We bought it in 2008 for £136,000 and it is now valued at between £300,000 and £325,000. Would you refinance it to buy 1 or 2 more properties? Well, Joe, the answer to that question for me is very simple, down to preference, but I absolutely would refinance that property. And actually, interestingly, just a quick glance of the calculator, you could pull out, if you lent 75% loan to value on that, £225,000. Now in Nottingham, and I'm not sure where you are in the world, in Nottingham you could buy 9 buy-to-lets with that money that are going to make you at least £300 a month net. That's £2,700 a month income. Plus, you're going to have 9 properties increasing in value as well, which you can again refinance in the future, and it's going to compound and compound over time and massively increase your wealth. So yes, I absolutely would refinance. So we've got a question from The Rocky. When you refinance, doesn't your cash flow become even less? So in answer to your question, The Rocky, yes. By refinancing for a higher value of the property, your mortgage payments are going to increase, therefore your profit is going to decrease. But the bit that you're missing, The Rocky, is that you are going to release more money to be able to reinvest that in other properties that's going to therefore cash flow you more. And again, the properties are going to then increase in value. You can then refinance those in the distant future and pull even more money out and compound it, constantly building your wealth. And this is the thing about property investing. When you understand it, when you're educated, you want to be making your money work for you. So by refinancing, you're pulling money out so that you can reinvest it and make your money work harder and stronger for you. Modern method of auction. Find it so complicated that it gives me a headache. Yeah, do you know what, Balance? I completely agree. And I don't know if you've seen my other videos, but my take on modern method of auction is it's a load of bollocks. I'm just saying it as it is. Now, modern method of auction is basically, in my opinion, a way of estate agents basically being able to charge more money, make bigger fees for selling the same house as they would on the open market. And also what's happening is you're going to get loads of interest because the guide price will be set low. You're going to get loads of people bidding on it, and in reality the property is going to go for market value or probably even higher. So actually it's not of your best interest to buy from modern method of auction. Just wondering, are all of your properties in your own name or under a limited company? Really quick answer for me. I've got 11 properties, of which one of them is in my personal name. And interestingly, that was the one I bought before I got educated. Since being educated, now all of my properties are in limited companies, in various different limited companies, because I have business partners, joint venture partners. But for me personally, it works out more tax efficient for me to run my properties through a limited company. So the reason that I hold most of my properties in a limited company is because for me personally, that makes it more tax efficient, because I can offset the interest for tax purposes, which therefore means I make a little bit more profit. So we've had a comment from Joseph, buy Bitcoin. Joseph, if that's your thing, then you absolutely buy Bitcoin. For me personally, I prefer to invest in something that A, I understand, B, I'm educated in, and I know the history of property is always going up. So even if we take a crash, I know it's going to recover. And for my long-term investment strategy, I plan to hold these properties until I die. So actually they're only going to go up in value, and I know that, and I'm confident in that. And for me personally, that means that I will invest my money in property rather than Bitcoin. Not to say that Bitcoin may not be amazing, it may well be amazing, but it's just not for me. I may be old school property investor, have been taught to cash up, be mortgage free. My first 5 properties make more than your 11. I never take money out. Basher it, that's absolutely fine, and that's your prerogative. But any educated property investor is going to want to make their money work for them. So they're going to refinance those properties to release money and then reinvest that money. Now there is a limit, and it's different for everybody as to what level of lending you want to take. But for me personally, I want to reinvest my money and grow my portfolio. Yes, I've only got 11 properties because I don't sit here and say I've got 100 properties, because that wouldn't be true. I've got 11. And if they weren't mortgaged, they would make me a lot more cash flow. But also, you don't realise that I've got a couple of £100,000 sat in my bank account, so I can go and invest and buy in more properties. So it depends how you look at it. But for me and for everybody that I work closely with in property, we are all reinvesting our money and trying to make it work smart and hard for us. So we've got a question from Stephanie Day. I'm 24 years old and looking to work my way towards buying an investment property. But doing some research, I'm starting to think it's not worth my while. Stephanie, what I would say is, if you don't understand it and you're Googling it, then Google is free. Free advice is worth every single penny. That's what I say, right? And here's the thing. You don't know that the people that are writing articles on the internet or wherever, you don't know that they are actually a property investor themselves. They might be just writing about property, okay? And what happens? You ask an amateur a question and they give you an amateur answer. And guess what? Everybody stays amateur. So what my advice would be is to get the information from a trusted place, people that you know are actively investing in the strategy that you want to invest in, and learn more about this stuff, because I tell you what, it has been the best thing I ever did. I started standing start in property, not knowing anything about even how to buy a house, and now I've got a fantastic portfolio which makes me a gross annual income of about £65,000 a year, and that's passive before I've even added on my deal packaging money, which makes me another £320,000 a year. So my message to you is get educated from the right people actively doing this stuff. Be sure to subscribe to this channel to learn more and see all of our fantastic content on all the different property strategies. There's a free report in the description. Download it and start learning today. So we've got a question from George Osters. The problem is that it seems like there are 10 people interested in every house. We're first-time buyers and have missed out twice after offering £20,000 over the asking price. George, I feel your pain. What I would say is that the market is really hot right now. I'm not going to lie. Now, I'm a professional deal packager. That means that I have to find really good value deals for my investors to buy. And the best way to do that is to find off-market properties. And in order to do that, you need a little bit of knowledge and you need the right marketing strategy to find them and filter out those really motivated deals. When you find a motivated seller, you will absolutely do a deal. And that's the key, off-market, motivated. So we've had a question from G-Man UK. I've got a council property that I can get for 68,000. It's actually worth 130, with a view basically to use the plot at the back to build a property and be able to increase the value of the plot and make more profit. So G-Man UK, what I would say to you is, first of all, if I can buy a property at £68,000 that's worth 130, get it bought. Get it bought now. Buy that property just for its own single as it is now, okay? Then what you need to do is you need to surround yourself with the right people, because the key to getting this right that you're talking about, and there is a lot of detail in your question, is you need to have the right people around you to give you the right advice on how easy it would be for you to be able to pull this off. So my advice to you is absolutely get this property bought, and then look at the plot at the back for what your plans are as an additional bonus. If it doesn't work, you can still default to making a huge amount of profit by just buying that house. So that's exactly what I'd do. We had a question from Amal Nathan a month ago. Nice video. Thanks, mate. Please share your mistakes. I have to be honest, and I have this personal battle with this answer all the time. And the reality is, I've not made many mistakes, purely because I got educated before I made them. So the only thing I would say is, My first house that I bought, I put it in my personal name, I paid too much money for it. They're the two things that I would say are my mistakes. The house was worth 105,000 and guess how much I paid? 105,000. Nowadays, I would be paying 70, 80,000 pounds for a property like that. But here's the great thing. Property is like a bad haircut. If you buy a property and sit on it for long enough, it will grow out. Now I've now refinanced that first property and pulled all of my money out. So even though it was a mistake, it actually came round to be a good thing because I now have been educated. So because I got educated at the beginning, I think my mistakes are quite minimal, and that's what I would say to anyone. Property is not cheap to get into, but if you know the right tools of how to get into them in the sense of reducing your deposits, being able to find motivated sellers and below market value deals and creative ways that you can acquire properties with no money down, then you can make massive profit in property. You just need to know how. So it's all about getting educated. We've got a comment from Mr. H a month ago. Not interested in property investment. Thanks YouTube. Not. Presenter is hot. Thanks YouTube. Well, first of all, Mr. H, what I would say is thank you very much. How did you buy a house for £80,000 with £0? Well, to be honest, Mel Beeswax, there are many different ways that you can acquire property low and no money down. Now, the specific strategy that I believe I was talking about in the video would be, it's a bit more of an advanced strategy called bridge to buy to let, which basically means I'm using bridging lending to buy a property which I've got below market value with a view that I'm then going to add the value and then refinance that property on the higher value and pull all of the money out. So I can then pay off the bridging lending. So just to give you a bit of context around that, if you take lending on a property, standard lending would be 75% loan to value based on one of two numbers. Either the market value, which is what it's worth as it is in its current condition, or the price that you pay. Normally, whichever is the lower of the two, okay? So you'll lend on 75% of the price you pay normally, okay? Now, bridging lending, my bridging lender that I work with in partnership lends up to 90% loan to value based on the market value, not the price you pay, which massively reduces your amount in. Now, then when you add that on with getting the property cheap below market value, it actually means that you can buy it, refurbish it and refinance it with no money in for you. That's one of many ways that you can acquire property with no money in. We've had a comment from Sam 1 month ago. You need 3 properties at London prices or £1.2 million, buy dividend stocks at 4% yield and relax. Now, Sam, the first thing I'd say about that is that with dividend stocks, for me, from my understanding of it, you don't have any control. So the CEO of that company can go and mess that company up and then you've lost everything. For me, property is the safest place to put your money. They say safe as houses for a reason, okay? Now, also sometimes dividend stocks don't pay out because the market crashed, for example. Now, I know someone who invested £350,000 in dividend stocks and they're making between £900 and £1,000 a month. Well, my one single HMO makes me net £1,000 a month, and my investment into that property is less than £35,000. Now, if you put £350,000 into property, then you could be making a substantial amount of money. So, for example, you could be buying at £350,000, a minimum, you could be making £4,200 a month. Secure. You're in control. You set the rent, you control the property, you control the lending on it. And it compounds over time. And where else can you get an asset where you can leverage up to 75% loan to value on it? That's why I invest in property. So we've had a comment, quite a substantial comment from DJ Morgan 823. A kitchen only lasts 10 years and costs 10 grand. Okay, so I'm going to break this down. So the first thing I would say is that kitchens don't cost £10,000. I don't know where you are in the country, so it's hard for me to comment. But what I know is I get trade prices and I can get a magnet medium range kitchen for £1,000. And if you want to be specific, that is for an 8-unit kitchen with gas or electric hob, gas or electric oven, extractor fan sink, taps and waste and handles. So that's less than £1,000 for a kitchen, so I don't quite know where you're getting £10,000 from, but I appreciate you might be in a different part of the country, but even in London, I wouldn't still be quoting that amount. That's £1,000 a year out of the profit. Bathroom will be the same. I think that we already agree that we're going to disagree on that based on what I've just said on the kitchen. So what I do appreciate is what you're saying here is the amount of time costs a small fortune to replace this stuff. Then there's redecorating to allow for. Can't seem to see where the profit is long term. Completely understand from your perspective where you're probably sat right now that you can't see the profit long term. Here's the thing. If you buy at the right price, you'll make an amount net a month, net a year from those properties. That's not where the big money is. The big money is in the price that you pay and then the value that you add to refinance. When you refinance, you pull substantial amounts of money out of those properties, and I do disagree that properties are increasing in value. All you have to do is take a look at the graph of the whole of history since property was recorded. Property, the line has gone up. Don't get me wrong, we've had crashes, but it's always recovered, which means that your property is going to appreciate over time. You can refinance and pull more money out. So yes, you do have to upkeep the properties, full admission, you do. But I think you're looking at this all wrong, mate. I don't know what your last comment is where you've put, don't think she's thought about all this, but I've thought about it in very much detail. I've been educated about it, and my portfolio brings me in £65,000 to £70,000 a year gross. So I know my numbers, I'm happy with my investment, but thanks for the comment. So we've had a comment from Mirza Fazlik, forgive me if I've pronounced it wrong, a month ago. Amazing video, by the way, thank you. My only question is whether the houses you're offering are worth buying. Now, this is the thing with me. I'm very, very specific with the criteria of the properties that I will invest in or allow my investors to invest in. So I'm not just buying the worst house on the street. I'm not buying in the really rough, cheap areas. I'm buying solid, decent properties that I know are in an area where not only are there strong rental demand, but they will appreciate in value over time. We've got fantastic appreciation rates in Nottingham, some areas better than others. I know where those areas are because I know my areas. So what I would say is those properties are absolutely worth buying. In fact, the deal that I confirmed in the last video, we actually agreed to buy it. Myself and my dad are actually now buying that property for ourselves to keep. So what does that tell you about worth buying? Surely what a property is worth is what someone is willing to pay for it. George, I agree and I disagree. And you know me, I just say it as it is. I mean, the reality is in this market, properties are going for more than they're worth. I'm just going to say it as it is. Now, the reality is if you get a motivated seller, you will get someone who wants to sell their property below the market value, so less than what it's actually worth. And it just depends on how you are marketing to try and find those deals. Yeah, I do agree that something is only worth what someone is willing to pay for it, but in this market, property is actually going for way more than it's worth, and that's just reality. So I just want to say a massive thank you because I've really enjoyed answering your questions. So what I would say is, if you've got any more questions, please feel free to put your question in the comments box below and I'll come back to you on all of your questions. And don't forget, there's a free report in the description below, so make sure you go, click on the link and download it today. And be sure to like, subscribe and hit the bell icon. You can watch more videos here. I've been Katy Wilson. You've been brilliant. I'll see you in the next video.